You're listening to the How to Talk to Girls podcast, where you'll learn step-by-step how to meet and seduce beautiful women, whether you're looking for one night of fun, a week-long fling, or a long-term relationship. I'm your host, Trip, and the episode starts now. Hello and welcome to the How to Talk to Girls podcast. I'm your host, Trip Kramer from tripadvice.com. What are we talking about today? Well, I haven't talked about this in a while, and I do get this question quite a bit when I'm working with my coaching clients. They ask me the question, how do you escalate on a date? What are you supposed to do on a date to get her more attracted to you? But more specifically, we're talking about how do you break that touch barrier on a date? Well, I have a couple of good techniques that you can use. Also, just some rules that you should follow in terms of when you're on a date, what you should do to break the touch barrier and make sure that you're out of the friend zone. It's interesting, there's a lot of discussion and debate, especially through different gurus on the internet in terms of dating advice when it comes to how fast you should sleep with a girl, how fast you should escalate, when you should escalate. And literally, I've seen everything. I've seen all different answers. I've seen some people say, you don't need to do anything until you guys are right about to have sex, meaning you don't even have to do escalation. Escalation doesn't even have to happen. It doesn't have to be a thing. I've heard some people say you shouldn't even touch her or at all or kiss her or anything on a first date so you can build up some more mystery if she likes you, things like that. And then I have my own theories and my own stuff. And, it's interesting. I think, of course, in some weird way, every answer is correct. I know that's not what you want to hear because you want to hear, well, what's the thing? What's the thing to do? In a weird way, it is all correct, meaning it depends because it depends on the relationship with the girl and how you met her and how long you've known her and how the chemistry is being built when you guys are on the date. And it's not like there's one rule that says, well, if you do this, then this will happen. And if you kiss her on the first date, if you don't kiss her, if you don't escalate. But I'm going to give you, from my experience, what has worked. And of course, because I'm preaching this advice, I do strongly believe in it. And I think it is some rules that you should follow because I just don't think you can fail. I do think that the other stuff that I've heard, there's more chances of failure. So when I say failure, I just mean there's more chances of her not being attracted to you. So I'm going to give you what I think is the best advice here, which I've seen work for me, it works for my clients, and what I've seen work for other people. So we'll go into that. If you want to be a coaching client and you think that you're struggling in the area of dates, maybe you're getting dates and you're not really sure what to do, maybe they're not going anywhere. I have a lot of guys who come up to me and say, Trip, I am getting dates, but I never hear from them after the first date. Or maybe we go on 2 or 3 dates, I never hear from them. Well, we will solve that. I will be able to tell you exactly what you're doing wrong based on what you are doing on these dates. We do phone calls to go over it and actually help you get to the point where you know either what you're doing wrong or we're fixing that and getting you more dates on this spot. And if you're a guy who's saying, well, I'm listening to this episode and I'm learning how to escalate on dates, but to be honest, Trip, I don't have any dates at all. Well, that's okay because coaching can help you with that too. So if you need personal help from me, and the new year is coming up. So what a great time to start. But again, you need to apply as soon as possible because I have some spots available in January, no more in December, but we would get started in a couple of weeks. So go to coachedbytrip.com and apply today. Fill out the application form in as best detail as possible so I can get to know you, understand what your issue is, and see if we can solve it. And if I do think that I can solve it, then I will text you or I will email you ASAP. We will hop on a call and we will get to know each other and see if coaching is a good fit for you. It's not for everybody. I understand that. And not everyone I'm able to get on the phone with, but it's really easy. Just apply, put a lot of detail, and it will increase your chances significantly of us getting on the phone. That's all we need. So apply today, coachedbytrip.com if you want to get coaching from me one-on-one. So, escalation, dates, what's the deal? Here's rule number 1. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to back up before I go into rule number 1. Let me just give you my overall thoughts on what I think about escalation and my whole theory really in terms of getting physical. So it's very simple. I believe that yes, you should break the touch barrier on first dates. Yes, you should be trying to go for a kiss on the first date. Yes, you should be trying to have sex on a first date. Of course, pending if she's interested, if she gives you consent and all that good stuff. But yes, you should. Now, why do I believe that? Well, and people ask me too, they go, people who are friends or people who I've talked to, they say, wow, Trip, like really? You're telling people to have sex like as soon as possible or on the first date? Like why are you doing that? What's the reason for that? And I say this, I'm usually talking to guys who are not your typical bad boy, not your typical alpha male, not your typical guy who is in touch with his masculine traits. So if I want someone to throw a ball 20 feet, I'm going to try to have him throw the ball 50 feet, right? I'm going to tell him, let's get to the ball to 50 feet so I know he'll get to 20 feet, if that makes sense. We need to push you harder because you're a guy who's not used to being physical with a woman, who's not used to getting out of the friend zone, which, by the way, that's the whole point here. I think a lot of guys end up in the friend zone, end up in the non-sexual zone, end up as the kind of provider-looking guy who isn't sexual in any way when he's not trying to make a move or escalate. If you're a guy who is more in touch with his alpha traits or is more considered a bad boy or whatever, and you are that person, and most of the people listening to this podcast are not. By the way, that wasn't me when I first started learning about this stuff, but it is something that you can kind of grow into. But what happens is you naturally, you can kind of do whatever you want. When you really just don't care, when you truly don't care, and you have a really big abundance in terms of women and an abundant mindset, then you can probably just do whatever you want and you don't have to follow any rules or techniques or anything like that. But if you're trying to learn how to be someone who's more attractive, then yes, I believe you should be working on breaking the touch barrier. And I'll go back now to rule number 1, which I ditched a couple minutes ago. But rule number 1 is when you see her, give her a hug. Okay, this is not a business meeting. This is not, and well, friends do hug when they see each other. But yeah, this is not a business meeting and you are trying to break the touch barrier right away. So you're going to give her a hug when you first see her on the date. And please, God, do not give her one of those hugs where it's like you put one arm around her and she kind of puts one arm around you. And then there's this weird space in between where both your arms that are mirroring each other, just dangling on the side. No. And I don't care, by the way, how you met her. I don't care if there's no exceptions here. 0 exceptions. If you met her online or through an app or on an approach or through a friend, whatever it is, give her a hug. Right away, get to that point where you're saying to her, hey, this is not friendship. Okay. Now, of course, like I said earlier, friends do hug. So what's the deal there? Well, we're going to continue this escalation process. Okay. Now, mind you, it doesn't have to be this intense escalation process. A lot of the pickup artists back in the day, you would read some stuff where it's like, okay, first you kind of like touch their hand. And then from the hand, you're able to kind of like hug them. And then from the hug, you're able to like do whatever and this and that. And eventually it leads to a kiss. And then you escalate to sex. It doesn't have to be that specific, okay, or that minute, right? But I still do firmly believe in having some sort of physical touch when you are on the date. Okay. Again, no exceptions here. Don't care how you met him. Even if you've just met each other on an app and you haven't even talked to each other, still, you go for the hug and we try to get to a point where you're building sexual tension. So how do you do that on a date? Well, first hug, then you're probably going to be sitting down across from each other. A lot of people go on dinner dates. I recommend for you that you don't go on a dinner date, that you actually do a drink or a coffee, something that allows you to just kind of talk, get to know each other and not be so formal or invest so much time into a full dinner. It's just unnecessary. And if you're following the Trip advice system here, you should be going on a lot of dates. So it's just not practical to be going on that many dinner dates. It just makes it easier, more efficient, and really more cost effective if that's something that's concerned for you in terms of just doing a coffee, a tea, maybe a small bite somewhere, but not like a full dinner, right? Coffee, whatever, a drink, like I said. Okay, so now you're on the date. Here's another thing that you could do. What you could do is if you guys are doing a drink, it's not a bad idea to sit at the bar. Sit at the bar where you two can be much closer to each other, much closer. Imagine you're sitting at the bar, your knees are going to be touching a little bit. You're going to be only about a foot and a half away from her, if that, maybe even just like a foot. So you guys can connect more. People connect more when they're physically closer to each other, right? Kind of common sense there. It's harder to connect with someone when they're that much further away. So you're going to be able to connect more when you guys are closer to each other. And it offers the ability for you to be able to even throw in some more touch techniques. Okay. So another thing that you could do is when you're across from her, again, this is not when you guys are like at a table where it's too far, but if you're right next to each other at the bar, what you could do is, I love this move. It's just so simple. And it just kind of, it's not going to turn her on. It's not really the point here. You're not trying to like escalate to necessarily turn her on. What you're trying to do is get her more comfortable with you. It doesn't really get her turned on, but it gets her more invested and feel like there's a rapport being built between you two. So let's say you guys are talking and you like something she says, or you don't like something she says. You can use the back of your hand. So let's say you guys are sitting at the bar and your right hand is kind of just like leaning on the bar, and then your left hand is kind of free in the open space. You take your left hand and you take the back of your knuckles and you kind of just barely graze her bicep or her shoulder or her forearm that's mirroring yours when she says something interesting, something you like. You can be like, no way you like that, or no, oh, come on. There's no way that you like that, right? Because a lot of first dates and dates are talking about things that people like, don't like, what they're interested in, whatever. Or say, no way you travel there. When you say like, so something that brings up like, oh, no way, like, oh, that's interesting. Or something that's going to build up to you having an opinion on something. As you're saying it, you take the back of your knuckles on your left hand and touch either her forearm, bicep, whatever's kind of closer or makes more sense, or her shoulder. You only do that like once or twice. Again, is it 100% necessary? No, it's not, but it's a good thing to build comfort, build that rapport. So if you have the opportunity to do it, don't worry. Don't try to do it if you guys are too far away or it's too awkward. But I wanted to give that to you so you can just use that in your arsenal, okay? So what else? What else can you do? After that, I don't think there's going to be much touching. It's not like you have to really focus on physical escalation during the date where you guys are sitting down and talking to each other. However, you guys might get up and you might go somewhere and you might walk somewhere. I even highly recommend, if the date's going well and you're interested in her, try to move it to another location. Go to another bar, walk around if it's nice outside. Find something else to do. You plan, you lead, say, hey, let's get out of here. This is fun. Let's go do something else, and have some sort of idea, depending on where you live, of where you guys can go next, okay? Now, that could end up being potentially back to your place. I'll get to that in a second. But just understand that, she might not be super comfortable yet unless you guys have been sitting there talking for like 4 hours. But if it's been like an hour and a half, try to move it somewhere else if possible, okay? And what you can do is, if it's going well and you feel like she's really connecting, you built that kind of comfort, another move you could do is when you guys are walking, and I know this sounds kind of cheesy and sort of like romantic. Maybe you've seen it in the movies, or maybe you see it with people who are a couple. And again, this is going to be very specific. It's hard to say exactly when to do it. It's kind of like intuitive. Like, you're going to have to feel it out when you guys are with each other. But you can grab her hand and do like a little spin and then let go. Okay? If you guys are really feeling it and it seems super comfortable, and sometimes you're going to go on dates where it's just you guys really connect, you can even say, hey, come here, take her hand and spin her. And there's no reason to do it. You're just doing it because it's fun and you're being playful and goofy and just having a good time in the moment. You can do the spin and then hold her hand. And you guys can hold hands for a little bit. Again, very specific. You're going to know if you could do that. I can't tell you exactly when to do it. It's not that, again, it's not that like technical here. It's something that you're going to feel in the moment, but I'm just giving you ideas here. Now, here's the thing. Hug, have to do. Other stuff, you don't have to do it. It's just ideas for you. Don't worry if none of that stuff happens. Don't worry. Don't be like, oh my God, I didn't do the spin. I didn't do the touch. Like, we didn't touch at all. I only gave her a hug and now the date's almost over. Don't worry about it. It's not necessary. It's just something that you can do. Okay? So then what happens? What happens when the date is over? Try to keep going with the date. Try to keep going with the date. Get her back to your place. Now, you're not trying to trick her back to your place. And you're never going to trick her back to your place. Like, it's stupid. It's very pathetic. It's desperate. We're not sitting here trying to trick girls back to our place. There's some things you can read online where guys try to get girls over their place by just lying about something. But it's okay and still good and makes it comfortable to have a reason to have her come back to your place. So it's just a little bit less awkward for her. It's not like, hey, you want to come over? Instead, have a reason to make it so it's a little bit more seamless, frictionless, easy. That could be, hey, let's go back to my place. I have a nice bottle of wine. Let's keep hanging out. Hey, I know this is going to sound funny, but hey, if she is interested in games or video games or that kind of comes up, you guys can go back and play a video game. You can listen to vinyl. I personally have a vinyl player. It's fun. It's get to choose different music and you get to put a vinyl on. And if you have a nice vinyl player, that's kind of like, you've really invested in it, then it can be fun and a good experience to listen to music. So anything like that, right? Any kind of reason to come back. And then from there, you just escalate. Okay, she comes over, you guys have a glass of wine, or maybe you're just hanging out. There's no alcohol involved at all. And make sure that you are a good host and say, hey, what can I get you? Bathroom's over here if you need it, da, 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 da. And when you guys are talking for a little bit, create a silence and go for the kiss. Creating a silence means you're not going to say anything. She's not going to say anything eventually, unless she's talking that much. Well, I have something for that. But you try to not say anything, so then she won't say anything. And then there's going to be a silence, and the silence is where there's going to be a kiss. And then you guys can go for the kiss, and then you can escalate to sex from there. Okay? So that's what you're doing here. And if she doesn't make a silence and she keeps talking, you say, hold on 1 second. And she's going to say what? And then you're going to not say anything. She won't say anything. And then you go for the kiss. Now, if you are not able to get her back to your place and that doesn't happen, it doesn't happen smoothly every single time, go for the kiss at the end of the date no matter what. Again, if you don't like her, you don't have to do that. But go for the kiss. You can't lose. You can't lose. Why? Because it's going to show her that you're not here to be her friend, even though I get it. Dates imply that it's not friendship, but still, it makes that connection. Go for the kiss. She's either going to reject it, and if she rejects the kiss, she's never going to be like, oh, everything was going great on the date until he went to kiss me. No girl ever says that. But you might be thinking, well, Trip, why is she rejecting it if you're saying that she doesn't care? Well, she just might not be ready yet, and that's okay. And if she likes you, she'll be okay with you trying to kiss her, even though she rejects it. And then you'll see that she still wants to hang out again. So a lot of people go on dates, try to go for a kiss. She doesn't go for the kiss, but then they end up hanging out again. Now, if you go for a kiss, she rejects it, and then you don't see her again, just understand it's not because you went for the kiss. Guys are think oh, I went for the kiss and it was weird and it was awkward. And well, maybe it was awkward, but really she doesn't want to see you again because she just didn't connect with you on the date, not because you went for the kiss. And then, of course, the other half of this side of the coin is that she might kiss you back. And there's a good chance that she will if she liked you, okay? So you can't lose. You can't lose. I did hear, and I have heard before on other people's channels, I've heard that if you don't go for the kiss, it allows mystery. Again, I think for a guy who's just learning this and is trying to get better with women and be more physical and tap into that side of himself, I think it's better for you to practice going for the kiss and not working on this whole let's have her chase and leave mystery type of ordeal. I say just go for it. Again, can't lose. If you're coming up to the end of this episode and you're still thinking, Trip, I want more. I need more. I need more escalation techniques and things like that. You don't need it. Just understand that you don't need it. There's only a few things that go a long way, and I've already given them to you. Okay, that's it. There's no other secrets here on what to do on a first date to get physical. Really, the rest of a first date, second date, third date is you guys connecting. You guys having interesting conversation. You guys having chemistry, which that's something you can't really hack into. It's either there or it's not. You portraying your masculine traits, something I talk about in my Hooked program and also in coaching in terms of entertainment and dominance, right? So leading, which you already are going to be doing. If you're displaying dominance, you're leading, you're creating the date, you're picking the spot for where you guys are to sit down. You're the one who's escalating, right? You're the one who's moving things forward. And then the E entertainment, which I just talked about. That's you entertaining yourself, having a good time on the date, asking interesting questions, telling stories of your life, all those things. You combine the escalation with having a fun and good date, and then you should increase your chances of it going really well and seeing what happens. And don't worry, by the way, if she doesn't touch you back or escalate back or doesn't kiss you back or you guys end up not going back to your place and having sex. Don't worry about that. But what you should be doing is continue that process. If it doesn't happen on the first date, do it on the second date or the third date. Again, the whole idea here is you're trying to meet a woman where you guys are not just friends, but you're lovers. It's something that is different from any other relationship. That means that there is sex and kind of love emotions involved, right? So you guys, as I'm not saying a couple in terms of you guys being in a relationship, as a couple together, you guys are going to be more physical with each other. So that's why you start right away. And that's going to make the difference between you two and everyone else. You don't do that stuff with friends normally, right? You're not making out with your friends unless you're in some sort of polyamorous community relationship. But those very rare exceptions aside, this is a unique relationship out of all the relationships in your life, different from your family, from your friends, from coworkers, etc. And the only difference there is that kind of sexual chemistry and actually having feelings for the person. So don't feel bad about trying to escalate. And of course, like I said earlier, with consent, no, I don't believe you need consent before you go and kiss someone on a date. But I do believe that you need consent if you guys are going to go further. So with that being involved, it's going to be okay. And something you should practice. And it sounds strange, like practice escalation, practice going for the kiss. Well, yes, because you're not going to be comfortable doing it the first time. And in order to get comfortable, you got to repeat it over and over and over and over. So get more dates. Talk to more women. Approach more women. Try to build an abundant mindset. It's not going to work out with every woman. It just won't. It's a little bit of a numbers game. Well, really, why do I say that? It's a lot of a numbers game. Understand that. That's how it works. If you need help with this, don't forget, you can go to coachedbytrip.com and I can assist you with it. I can help you with it and we can work on this together one-on-one. So apply today if you need help. Other than that, I hope that this episode helped you and you know what to do and have a little bit of some guidelines in terms of your next date. Good luck. I'll talk to you in the next episode.